Welcome to All Things Work, a podcast from SHRM. I'm your host, Anne Sparaco, and this week we're discussing total HR transformation. And our guest this week is Nicole Whitehead, who is the Vice President of Human Resources at Bucknell University, who has a lot to discuss about when it comes to total HR transformation.
Yes.
Nicole, welcome.
Thank you.
We
It's been an
appreciate your time.
exciting visit.
Yes, absolutely. And we're very happy to have you on. And so we were talking about earlier about your total transformation of Bucknell University's HR department. You came
Yes.
in 2022
hmm
into this new role after serving as a CHRO in the Chicago area.
hmm
Can you talk about what you saw when you came to the department? What stood out to you?
Sure. Well, first, thank you again for having me. And not unlike any other higher ed institution post COVID, we were dealing with challenges that we had never been faced with before, such as employment shortages, being able to fill jobs, individuals, even just having a difference of thought about higher education being their career choice with so much flexibility in industries across the globe. And so it was a space of, I would say, uncertainty on how HR would be able to deliver to help the institution as a whole meet its strategic priorities. And particularly for our institution, we had not really looked at best practices as the basis for how HR should be structured previously. Higher ed is not unlike any other corporation where we have to ensure that our employee value proposition is there, that we have, how we treat people, how that people are able to show up whole, that they can come into an environment and feel like their whole selves are respected. And so those are challenges, especially with an institution such as Bucknell in rural Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And so myself coming from the suburbs and, having restaurants open late at night and things of that nature, it's certainly a culture shift, but it is very rewarding. So I think making the business case for why one would want to work at Bucknell University in rural Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, it really is about the work that we do, how we're changing lives with students and being part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right. And during your assessment process, there was a particular discovery that clearly illuminated how HR had become a barrier to the university really getting
Yes.
things done. Can you
hmm
elaborate on that about that barrier?
Yes, absolutely. So, when I started this listening tour, more just a qualitative to learn about people's experiences with HR. And the overwhelming theme was, I hate HR. Now, I've heard that, for my 20 years in human resources, but, people felt injured.
Mhm.
They felt that they could outline experiences where they felt human resources wasn't skilled, from the perspective to support their needs. And the systems and structures in human resources wasn't particularly set to be able to meet the diverse populations that we had there. So, listening to those themes, it led me, to really reach out to SHRM Enterprise Solutions to say, what tools do you have that can help me really do more of a programmatic assessment, really looking at our systems and structures more holistically. So it really isn't just addressing one thing. The themes were so widely spread. I knew that this was an opportunity to use tools and make sure that we make some metric driven decisions and put some things in place that we can that would help us or allow us to be able to assess our progress.
And I love that you talked about opportunities there.
Yeah.
This is something Johnny C. Taylor Jr., our president and CEO at SHRM, talks about when you have a situation or what some might label a problem,
Yeah.
you seek the opportunity.
hmm
Where can you pivot?
Yeah.
And I love that you envelop that in
hmm
your leadership role. And so at the end of your process,
hmm
and I know you discussed this a little bit, what were some
Yeah.
of the high takeaways from the challenges that came to trying to solve this
Yeah.
situation and find
hmm
that opportunity?
I think that one of the larger themes that came out of the work is that we needed to work on our trust. being able to be deep listeners. How are we more nimble in our processes where there's not one black and white way to do things when we have different segments of our population? And then we also have the challenges that are going on for every institution around inflation, the economy, things that are happening, more individuals needing different support for mental health, and just the stress that life is bringing right now. So, a lot of the assessments that we were able to do, even in partnership with the SHRM Enterprise Solutions, reflected a need to modernize the work that we were doing, better utilize technology, better frame the structure of human resources where there wasn't a single point of failure, where this person is on vacation, so you won't get help in that thing until this individual comes back. So we needed to build that depth and bench strength to be able to support an institution that's really 24/7. And a lot of times people forget that in higher ed or at a university, we have facilities and power plant that are our public safety departments that are working 24/7. So we can't just build a human resources department that supports 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. How do we support those wonderful employees that are working shifts that most of us don't have to work, and do it in such a way that provides them the support that they need?
Exactly. And when
Mhm.
you started in 2022, you came to this, essentially they were asking you to take on this huge project
Yeah,
to transform the HR department. That is no small
yeah,
venture.
yeah.
And so how did you prioritize
Mhm.
tackling those challenges as far as identifying your specific goals, the changes you wanted to make based on, what you were seeing, what you were hearing from the
Yeah.
people there?
Well, the reality is I wasn't brought in and said you need to transform HR.
Right.
I
Mhm.
was brought in to say, HR is not a trusted partner. What do you need to do about it? And so a lot of times I think we want people to speak HR, and they don't always know what that means to, what it means to do an organizational assessment. Well, how do we evolve, the people, the technology, the processes that are there? The first half of my career I spent in industry, and then I transitioned to higher ed. And so I think some of the things that we were experiencing, I had already experienced in industries prior, to even coming on board. So being able to assess not just what my HR team thought, but the constituents, the people that we were supposed to serve, what do they need from us? And so when we talk about upskilling and reskilling, that fear that employees have, that, oh my gosh, you're saying I need to upskill or you're going to fire me. And it's like, no, I'm actually trying to add things to your toolkit so that we can better meet the strategic priorities and the mission of the institution. So using the tools, we used a priority assessment with SHRM Enterprise Solutions. We used a talent assessment for my team, which completely freaked them all out because they thought, oh my gosh, you're just trying to see what I'm weak in. And even despite my best efforts at the people side of change management, where I keep reminding them that this is why we're doing this. We're trying to position ourselves for 3 years from now. So we can't, just get ready for today. We have to be ready for, how do we leverage AI? How do we, embrace technology to be more efficient and be more relevant as a human resources division? I think it's a huge part of the work, and even this transformation of, how do you navigate with people through conflict, through dialogue, with having debate without hate? How do we create, a culture where you can disagree and not feel like you're going to lose your job, or that you have the psychological safety that I'm the one person that maybe not agree with a particular concept? And that is what I wanted to have on my team. I don't want a team of people that are yes people, that because Nicole said it, that's what I want to do. But how do we respectfully and with dignity challenge thoughts and ideas so that we are operating with curiosity as leaders of what's the potential and what are the opportunities, and not just thinking about what we can't do?
Exactly. And I love that you brought up dignity because
Yeah.
during the SHRM 24 conference in Chicago, you held a session. You
Mhm.
spoke a lot to people about leading with dignity
Yeah.
and inclusivity, talking about the importance of inclusion in the workplace.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that? Just kind of maybe give examples of what you
Yeah.
mean by leading with dignity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, several years ago, I started on this. I don't know. I would just say it's my Dalai Lama moment of Are we overcomplicating this thing around humanity? And when someone asked me one day, and I had never really given it a whole lot of thought, of Nicole, how do you address systemic discrimination? And immediately, like in my soul, deeply, I felt through systemic humanity. And what that means is valuing people because they're a human. That whether, you love someone that looks like me and you love same sex, different sex, you're from a high socioeconomic area or a low socioeconomic area, there's a value that you have just because you're a human. And that's where the work has to start. And examples of that would be at Bucknell, one of the things that we used to do, and it happened to me as a new hire, is once you came on board, they ran a background check and they charged you for the background check. And if you were hired, you were reimbursed for the background check. So whether you're in facilities, groundskeeper, public safety, a vice president, you pay for your background check. Now, that was so ridiculous to me. I said, well, what about people that don't have the money to pay for it and that they're actually trying to get the job? Why would you put someone in a position to have to say to you, could you please waive that fee for me because I don't have the money? So if I'm looking at maintaining your dignity, why would I put you in a position where you have to tell me about your personal finances before you even start working here on this job? That when I put myself in your shoes, before I can do that, I have to take mine off. And that may mean I have to look at things through a lens that really just values you as a human. Processes like that, or our time to respond to someone's inquiry. I should set a realistic expectation that if you send me an email because I value you and whatever you need from me, my turnaround time is 1 business day or 2 business days. But I should say that to you so that you know that in advance. I should have metrics that I hold my team accountable for. What's the cost per hire? How much does it cost for us to be able to recruit? What's the yield? And we need to be able to have those conversations. And so I was able, really to use so many of SHRM resources, the talent acquisition book. I presented that during my talk as well, that we've gone through that thing chapter by chapter. We're not done yet. But I want my team to be agile, that even though your primary area may be talent acquisition or it could be compensation, you need to speak the language of the work of HR. And it is more than just single threaded. And we don't ever want to have a single point of failure where we know we need to be able to support and we need to be ready.
And an HR department overhaul, when you're coming in and you're saying, I want to lead with dignity,
Yeah.
how did your team respond to that? I'm sure that it, was a change for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
How did they respond and how did you work with them to make sure that this was leading the way in your
Yeah.
new strategy?
Well, it starts with me. The tone starts with me as the vice president of my new title is vice president of talent, culture, and human resources. So part of our transformation is that we're no longer the division of HR. We're the division of talent, culture, and HR. And I have to model those behaviors that even if we're in a difficult situation, how do I honor the dignity of the person that I'm in conflict with? And you asked earlier, give me an example. Well, I had an employee who said to me, dignity is just as hokey as all the other terms that people use. And there are going to be people that don't know what that means. They come from households, they come from families, they come from other jobs where treating people, in a competitive way and minimizing who they are, that's just part of the work environment. And so, that's a non-negotiable for me of I don't always know that in a situation, my intent and the impact was different. And so what I try to model and what I try to teach my team is about asking the question. How did you receive that conversation that we were in? Or when we were in the meeting, how did it hit you? How did it impact you? Because if they end up saying to you, I was injured by it, or, I felt that I wasn't respected, then now you have to deal with the aftermath. So intent, impact, aftermath. And in that aftermath, if you tell me that something I've said or I've done has offended you, that might not have been my intent. That might not, have been what I wanted to happen, but I should acknowledge it has impacted you in some type of way. And let's figure out how do I get back to my intent and approach it in such a way that it honors you and you being a human here too.
That's wonderful.
Mhm.
And I understand this was, again, no small venture. We talked about
No,
that earlier. It really takes a team.
it does.
And for all people to be on board, how did you go about, who on your team with the task force to, tackle
Hmm.
this challenge? Did you really work with closely? And how
Yeah.
else did everybody jump on board?
Yeah, well, everybody didn't jump on board. I would be lying to you to say, yeah, everybody's like dignity and let's transform everything. Let's teach everybody new stuff. This is awesome. That is not what happened. Ultimately, when you think about change management, you have people that jump on board. Yep, I'm on board. Great, Nicole. Here's the vision that I want to follow you. Let's just do it. Then you have a group that let me wait and see how this goes. We had another group that were just like, absolutely, this is not going to work. Administration is always trying new stuff and it never works. And so it really is, approaching this situation is what do those people need to move through the change process? So honoring the human, and the people that I involve most are the naysayers, the ones that hate everything. Tell me what you hate about it. And if there are things that I can do to navigate, if you hate it, there's some segment of the population that probably hates it too. And so my job isn't to say every time somebody's unhappy is my job to make them happy. But it is my job to make sure that they all understand the why and what the impact is if we don't change and if we don't change right now. And so I would say it's a gradual process. We're still in it. But I'm going to say I'm so proud of my team that they have embraced that and I will say they have seen some quick wins where we get emails from people that say, I still hate HR, but gosh, you all are doing so much better, or thank you for changing that policy or procedure because it made no sense that, we weren't able
Mhm.
to get this particular time and a half or double time or whatever. They feel that we're listening to them. So sometimes I think we want some big impact. And sometimes it's the small wins that collectively add up to a cultural shift where people start feeling like they have a voice and that they feel valued.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I always say, everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
It's just the question of, is someone listening to me?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so you're well into your three-year plan. You talked
Yeah.
about that a
Yeah.
little bit. You talked about some of the successes, like you
Mhm.
said, people feel like they're being heard
Sure.
at the end of the day, which is
Mhm.
wonderful. And you said it's the small things building up. What other successes have you
Yeah.
experienced, or what strides have you made so far in your
Yeah.
three-year plan, and what remains somewhat of a challenge to this
Mhm.
day?
So I would say some of the strides, and we're just finalizing all of those priorities along that road of the 3-year plan. But some of the successes where we were able to add another full week of time off at Christmas time or winter break. So some people don't celebrate Christmas, so I want to be inclusive. But during the winter season, there are many kids who were getting out of school before their parents were out. And so, if you start thinking about the whole human that's entering the workplace, if the kids are out of school, who are you going to have watch your children while you finish those last couple of days? And so, we had faculty that would be off once they finished their grading. And so, the president said, Nicole, I agree. We should just shut down for those full 2 weeks. And it isn't just for daycare, it's for mental health and wellness that once you go through the whole semester and all these things that are happening, you're getting pulled in one direction or another by faculty, staff, and students, you need that time to refresh. So, allowing additional mental health and wellness time so that people could actually be off for 2 weeks. And this is following a week of vacation at Thanksgiving. So, when we start thinking about time off as a way to refuel, that's been a major impact. In our compensation strategy, we weren't very nimble, and so when we start thinking about being able to attract talent, all jobs aren't created equal. And for some jobs, we needed to be more innovative with sign on strategies or performance bonuses after employees were in the role for a year. And so being able to be more strategic and intentional with certain positions, we've been able to fill jobs that have been open for multiple years here in the last couple of years. And so I would say in listening to my constituents, because they're telling me about impact, one of the other elements is we implemented an ERP Workday, And when I came on board, there was a lot of conversation about how, employees hated Workday, that it wasn't implemented appropriately and nobody wants to use it. But there are opportunities, even with AI, with Workday, and there's some excitement by groups of employees to say, I'm looking forward to what I'll be able to access and have self-service access to at my fingertips so that I can control my own destiny.
Right.
So huge things that are happening while people are saying, I hate you, but you're making progress. I'll take it.
That is a success in itself. Absolutely. And final question for you. What are three quick pieces of advice you would give to other HR leaders who may be facing somewhat similar challenges or just challenges overall in trying to improve their HR department,
Yeah.
and even if it's not a complete overhaul?
Yeah. I would first say, start with dignity and humanity, that not just for other people, but for yourself. How are you honoring the work and giving yourself grace? That this is, when you talk about a transformation and you think about a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, this is what that feels like. That, there's a hard piece of that caterpillar, transforming. There's some thrashing and some things that have to go on. Give yourself the grace and the time to treat the process with dignity and humanity would be the first thing that I say. The second thing is ensure that you are a lifelong learner, that there are going to be things that you don't know. Use partners such as Enterprise SHRM Solutions, use, other colleagues that have already been through these types of things before. And that may not be in your industry. I'm in higher ed, but, corporate or other environments that have already gone through those things. And then lastly, I would say be curious. Never stop being curious about the work. And that really involves people for us in human resources. Learn all that you can about the divisions that we support, the people that we support, so that we can have proactive solutions and not just reactive.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nicole.
you.
That is it for our episode of All Things Work podcast. Thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing your insights and experience, especially leading with dignity. We truly, truly value that as
Thank
well.
you so much for your time.
Wonderful. And if you're interested in hearing more about the All Things Work podcast, we have so much more content to come. And all you have to do is visit shrm.org/allthingswork. You can like, subscribe, and comment and share with your own network. Share your thoughts. We would love to hear from you.